You ever show up somewhere and realize immediately you shouldn't have come? That was me, standing on the edge of my cousin's perfectly manicured lawn in coastal Maine, watching champagne glasses clink under a tent the size of a basketball court. This was the Whitaker Family Reunion 2024 edition. String lights twinkled like they were trying too hard. Lobster rolls, oysters, even a live jazz trio. Everything about it screamed money and legacy. I hadn't seen any of them in 10 years, and honestly, I hadn't missed it. My older brother, Trevor, was the one who roped me in with some self-satisfied email. "Come see the Empire, little bro. Mom wants you here. It'll be the full Whitaker welcome." Should have known better. The whole event looked like a scene from a prestige Netflix drama steeped in entitlement and generational wealth. Everyone wore their wealth like cologne, subtle but choking. I'd kept it simple. A charcoal blazer, navy chinos, and boots that had seen actual sidewalks. When I got to the long dinner table under the tent, I scanned for my name. No card, no chair, just a glaring gap between my Aunt Rhonda and Cousin Colin. I stared at it for a second, thinking maybe someone moved my place setting. But nope. "Hey, where's my seat?" I asked, keeping my tone casual, measured. Trevor smirked like he'd been rehearsing. Oops. Must have miscounted. And then the laughter. That quiet, knowing titter. My mom, Eloise, sipped her wine like she hadn't heard me. My cousin Sarah actually snorted into her salad. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a mistake. It was a message. I stood there for half a second, heat crawling up my neck, every petty childhood memory firing off in my brain. I could have made a scene. Could have flipped a chair. Instead, I just nodded and said, "Loud enough for everyone to hear. Guess I'm not family anymore." And I walked off, calm, controlled, which probably scared them more than if I'd screamed. I made it to the gravel driveway before anyone followed. Spoiler alert, no one did. That's fine. They had no idea what I'd been doing all these years. While they were playing croquet on trust funds, I was building something real. And now, they were about to learn the cost of trying to erase me. Back in 2014, I left the Whitaker name behind. Literally. Dropped it from my email, my credit cards, everything. I was tired of the Ivy League dinner conversations, the backhanded compliments, and my mom's fixation on optics over affection. They called me reckless when I left UPenn in my junior year. "A Whitaker doesn't quit," my dad said over the phone. I remember staring at my ramen in a sublet apartment in Philly and thinking, no, a Whitaker suffocates quietly. I moved to Denver with $2,000 in my checking account and an idea, small business logistics. Boring? Maybe. But I saw what nobody else did, tiny companies drowning in shipping chaos, because the big guys didn't care. I started Bite Route in a shared co-working space next to a vape store. No AC. Just ambition and a refurbished Dell laptop I bought for $220. It was hell. I coded for 16 hours a day, teaching myself APIs, shipping algorithms, warehouse databases, stuff that sounded like Greek to most people. But after a year, I had a prototype. After 2, I had clients. By 2024, Bite Route moved over $1 billion in goods for small businesses and was valued at just under $200 million. I kept it quiet, never bragged, never went on LinkedIn to post founder flexes. I didn't need my family to know. They never cared when I struggled. Why? Should they get to clap when I soared? But when Trevor's invite hit my inbox, something in me twitched. Maybe curiosity, maybe pettiness, maybe both. So I said yes. And then I did what I do best, logistics. I handled everything. Booked the tent through one of Bite Route's shell vendors. Hired the caterers through a hospitality firm we quietly acquired last year. Even the jazz trio came from our partner booking network in Boston. Every single element of this Whitaker reunion extravaganza was routed unknowingly through me. They didn't know. That was the best part, even the deposit, paid by me. Trevor promised the family would reimburse him after the event. Classic move, throw a party, pay later. If I'd had doubts about their financial health before, they were confirmed when the tent guy called me 2 days ago and said, "Hey, your brother sent the checks in the mail. That true?" I told him not to worry. Just wait, because after what happened tonight, I was pulling every plug I'd connected. Walking away from the dinner tent, I took the long path around the property. Every corner of the Whitaker estate was a shrine to their imagined glory. oil paintings of ancestors who owned railroads, an original Tiffany lamp no one could touch, a beach-facing gazebo they'd renovated with marble pillars, all for show. It was like watching a crumbling set piece on Broadway. I wasn't angry anymore, just certain that I didn't want back in. That whatever ounce of hope I had that things had changed, dead. But I was going to leave them with something to remember me by. I stepped behind the hedge, where my car was parked under the pines, and pulled out my phone. The Bite Route backend dashboard opened with a thumbprint. Every contract, every invoice, every vendor attached to this reunion was sitting under my control. And with one swipe, I canceled the tent. Then the caterer, then the open bar, the string lights, the jazz trio. One by one, I unraveled their weekend. They thought they'd erased me from their table. I just erased their entire event. By the time I made it back to my car, the night had settled in like a heavy coat humid, quiet, full of that tense stillness right before a storm. Not the weather kind, but the kind that brews under string lights and catered smiles. You could feel it. I sat there in the driver's seat for a moment, phone glowing in my palm. The cancellation confirmations rolled in one by one. Tent service reversed. Catering pulled. Bar staff, dessert cart, jazz trio gone. Every dollar rerouted, every vendor off the hook. And every thread of their little show pulled, unraveled, and swept out to sea. It wasn't about ruining a party. It was about pulling off the mask they'd worn for years. They'd thrown money around like it was confetti, acting like they were untouchable. But tonight, I'd built the whole stage. They just never noticed the scaffolding said Bite Route. They thought I was the joke, but I was the infrastructure. And now, I was pulling the power. About 20 minutes later, I circled back on foot, cutting through the side garden where my aunt had planted those absurdly symmetrical rose bushes. The tent was still lit. Laughter echoed under the canvas like nothing had happened yet, but the cracks were forming. I spotted Tony, the catering manager I'd spoken with earlier, storming toward the head of the tent, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other. His face looked like someone had just told him Santa was fake and his rent was due. I stayed in the shadows, crouched behind the hydrangeas like I was back in middle school, sneaking out of my room. Tony leaned in close to Trevor and whispered something. Trevor's smile wavered. Then Eloise leaned over, her expression stiff as a Botox mishap, and whispered to him. Trevor's hand went to his jacket pocket, pulling out his phone, and I could see it happen in real time, his confusion folding into panic. Then came the real fireworks. Well, not literal fireworks, those were canceled too, but close enough. The tent crew arrived. 4 guys in navy polos and steel-toed boots, walking with the quiet confidence of men on a deadline, started rolling up the sidewalls of the tent. Calm, efficient. Like this wasn't a multi-million-dollar family event, but just another Friday night teardown. "What the hell is this?" Trevor barked, voice rising. Tony was already on the phone again, nodding, then turning to Trevor and saying loud enough for half the table to hear, "Contract's been pulled. Funds reversed. You'd need a new payment to proceed." Cue chaos. Eloise stood up so fast her wine glass toppled. Sarah gasped. Colin looked like he was choking on a shrimp cocktail. "And me?" I crouched lower behind the hedge and smiled. You want to know the wildest part? None of this would have happened if they'd just made space for one more chair. That was it. One chair. They spent more on the flower arrangements than I did on my first car, but couldn't be bothered to include the sun that didn't fit their aesthetic. See, my mother, the queen of curated appearances, never liked mess. And to her, I was messy. I didn't fit the country club newsletter, didn't go to Yale like Trevor or become a partner in some firm like Uncle Pete. I dropped out. I coded. I lived in converted warehouses and wore sneakers to meetings. I'd embarrassed her by being different. Tonight was her way of keeping things clean. My absence served up with a side of plausible deniability. Must have been an oversight, right? The tent was folding in on itself now, literally. One of the poles came down, the canopy sagging like a dying balloon. The music stopped. The staff started boxing up untouched trays of food, while confused guests started checking their watches and whispering. Trevor was red-faced, flailing, trying to dial numbers with shaking hands. I saw him pull Paul, the estate manager, Aside his voice, a hiss of desperation. "They can't do this," he said. "Get the backup vendors now." Paul just shook his head. "You didn't pay the deposits." The account holder canceled. "What do you want me to do, man? Pull food out of thin air?" Trevor looked like he was about to punch a hedge. I almost wished he would. Might have knocked some self-awareness loose. Eloise tried damage control. She stood on a chair, clutching a champagne flute, and raised her voice above the unraveling. "Please, everyone, stay calm. There's just been a small technical hiccup. We're resolving it now." But nobody was buying it. Not with the staff walking out like they were clocking out of a Denny's night shift. Guests started trickling toward the driveway. A few tried to offer polite excuses. "We have an early morning. It's just a bit chilly. Our babysitter's texting," but let's be honest, they were fleeing the collapse. And I just stood back and watched. When my phone buzzed in my pocket, I already knew who it was. Trevor. Trevor, 8:41 p.m.? What the hell did you do? Trevor, 8:42 p.m.? You think this is funny? Trevor, 8:44 p.m. Answer your damn phone. I didn't. Then came the voicemail. You made your point, okay? But fix this. You're screwing over everyone here. This isn't just petty, it's sociopathic. I laughed out loud. The guy who spent his entire adult life stomping on people's necks in finance was calling me sociopathic? That's rich. But that's when the real twist happened, when I found out this wasn't just about a dinner party. This whole thing was smoke and mirrors for a bigger game. See, while Trevor was spinning at the tent, I took a quiet stroll into the guest house, claiming I needed to charge my phone. What I found was his briefcase, left wide open on the desk, like he didn't think anyone would be curious. Inside, documents from Whitaker Holdings, balance sheets, bleeding red ink, a property in Martha's Vineyard already under foreclosure, a sticky note that said, "Private equity pitch Monday," frame as restructuring. But the worst? A draft speech, clearly written for that night's dinner. I scanned down the bullet points until I saw my name. And this line, "We wish Andrew the best as he steps away from the family trust." A mutual decision made with grace. Mutual? I never agreed to that. They hadn't just forgotten my chair. They were prepping to cut me out, publicly bury me under a PR-friendly lie, while my mother toasted to legacy, and Trevor reassured investors over sparkling water. This wasn't just dinner. This was a staged exit. And I wasn't supposed to notice until the photos were already online. So yeah, I pulled the plug. Not out of revenge, out of clarity, because these people, they never saw me. Not really. Just a version of me they could control or ignore. And when they couldn't do either, they erased me. But tonight, I erased them first. By the time I stepped out of the guest house, the lawn had shifted from festive to frantic. The string lights flickered weakly above an empty table, half the guests gone, the other half standing around like they were waiting for someone to explain what just happened. And no one had answers. I slid my phone into my pocket, the speech still fresh in my head. We wish Andrew the best. A mutual decision made with grace. Grace? They were going to cut me out like a bad investment, slap a smile on it, and move on. Probably offer me some weak handshake at dessert. Pretend it was all amicable. Like I just decided to walk away from my inheritance, my name, everything tied to my bloodline. That wasn't just insulting. It was surgical. I'd underestimated them. I thought the missing seat was petty revenge. But this wasn't petty, it was calculated. And now, it was personal. The sun had dipped low behind the cliffs, casting long shadows over the lawn as staff loaded trays of untouched lobster into vans. I kept walking, slow and unnoticed, weaving through the back path behind the main house until I hit the far side where the real power plays happened. That's where I found them. My mother, Eloise, and Trevor, standing near the garden trellis. It was like watching an off-Broadway production of How to Stage a Family Betrayal in 3 acts. Their heads were close, voices low. Eloise clutched a silk shawl like it was armor. Trevor was pacing, gesturing with one hand while holding his phone in the other. "She won't go for it unless we present it as mutual," he was saying. "We have to get ahead of it. The trust language is airtight, but we need the narrative." Eloise sighed. "He'll leave. He always does. He doesn't have the stomach for a fight." That part stung. Because once it had been true. Back when I was younger, I'd walk out of rooms, out of arguments, out of the whole damn state just to get away from them. They took that as weakness. They counted on it. I stepped back behind the tree line, heart pounding not from fear, but from clarity. This wasn't just about a trust fund anymore. It was about rewriting the narrative they thought they owned. Later that night, I sat alone in the back of the estate solarium, the one they barely used, stuffed with antique furniture and sun-bleached books nobody read. My laptop glowed on my lap. I pulled up the contracts for every vendor still tied to the reunion. One click and everything would be reversed, refunded, rerouted. But that was already done. Now it was time for the bigger move. I opened ByteRoute's internal dashboard and navigated to a shell account I'd used months ago. One Trevor never knew existed. This account wasn't just for event bookings. It had been quietly funding maintenance, payments, and invoices for Whitaker Holdings' logistics and fulfillment side for over a year. Their corporate logistics provider? Yeah, it was me. That merger Trevor bragged about on LinkedIn? I'd outbid their actual vendor through a proxy firm and slid ByteRoute into the back door of the Whitaker machine. They'd been using my tech for 12 months without realizing it. And I'd been watching. Every expense, every failed vendor payment, every desperate cash flow shuffle disguised as strategic moves. They weren't just broke, they were bleeding. So while Trevor played king of the castle, I'd been sitting in the watchtower tracking every crack in the foundation. Tonight just gave me permission to press the detonator. Around midnight, I got a text. Maya, 12:04 a.m. You okay? God, that one hit harder than anything else that day. Maya and I used to work together back in Denver. She was ByteRoute's first project manager. Smart, patient, had the kind of calm you couldn't fake. We'd been more than friends for a while, until I let work get in the way. Classic mistake. I told myself I needed to prove something before I could really show up for someone else. I hadn't expected her to text, but I was glad she did. Me, yeah. Took a little walk through the fire tonight. Didn't get burned. Maya, you always did like fire. Be careful it doesn't become a habit. She wasn't wrong. There's a thin line between payback and obsession. But tonight didn't feel like obsession. It felt like clarity. The next morning was awkward. I made a point of strolling into the main house like nothing happened. Coffee in hand, freshly shaved, calm. The living room was a war zone. Trevor sat on the couch, tie askew, eyes bloodshot. Eloise stood near the fireplace, arms crossed, talking into her phone in that clipped tone she used when things weren't going her way. When she noticed me, her voice faltered. Andrew. Morning, I said, raising my mug. Bit of a rough night, huh? She didn't smile. Trevor stood up. We need to talk. I tilted my head. About the chair you forgot? Or the trust you're cutting me out of? Neither responded. I walked over and set my coffee down, then pulled out a flash drive from my blazer pocket. This has 12 months of internal data from Whitaker Holdings. Vendor logs, payment records, backdoor financial leaks. Oh, and a flagged audit report from your failed Nantucket asset sell-off. Trevor's jaw tightened. Eloise's face went pale. I placed it gently on the coffee table. You were planning to cut me out, paint it as voluntary, and slide the money somewhere safe before I could say a word. You forgot one thing. I leaned in, my voice low and measured. I built the pipes you're bleeding through. They didn't speak, not for a full 30 seconds. Then Eloise recovered, like she always did. Polished, icy. You'd ruin your own family's name just to prove a point? I met her gaze. You ruined it the day you decided legacy was more important than honesty. Trevor tried again. What do you want? Money? That almost made me laugh. You really think this is about money? I asked. You stole my name, my seat, my story. I'm just taking it back. And with that, I turned and walked out. I could have pushed harder right then, could have dropped the audit to the SEC, could have blown up their empire in one email, but it wasn't time yet. The trick to unraveling people like them isn't a single strike. It's pressure. Slow. Sustained. Let them scramble. Let them wonder how deep the rabbit hole goes. I'd built my empire with silence and patience. Now, I'd take theirs apart the same way. The thing about rich families? They don't break apart all at once. They splinter. Silently at first. Like ice cracking under pressure. It's not the meltdown that surprises you, it's how long they pretend everything's fine while standing in the fire. That morning, after I dropped the flash drive on the living room table like a live grenade, I didn't stick around to watch it blow. I went for a walk instead, past the garden, down the private path that led to the cliffs. The ocean was restless, whitecaps crashing into rocks like they were trying to climb them. Seagulls crying overhead, wind whipping off the water and cutting through my shirt. But it felt good, clean, like salt water scrubbing away 10 years of pretending I didn't care. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. Time to make the first call. The woman who answered sounded more amused than surprised. Andrew, you don't usually call before noon? Ellie, I said, smiling. You remember that favor I mentioned last summer? She laughed softly. The one where you said, if I ever need to burn down a financial empire, I'll call you? That's the one. A pause. Then you need me to leak something? Just enough to light the match, I said. No names. Not yet. Just numbers. Ellie was a financial columnist for a mid-sized outlet with an oversized Twitter following. She wasn't famous, but she was respected, especially among the people who tracked hedge fund implosions like they were playoff brackets. I sent her the report I'd pulled from Trevor's briefcase, plus a cleaned-up summary from ByteRoute's internal logs. She didn't ask where I got it, she just said, give me until Monday. Perfect, because I wasn't going to nuke them. I was going to smoke them out. Back at the estate, things were unraveling. Trevor was on the phone again, this time pacing the pool deck in a wrinkled button down, like a man trying to save a sinking ship with a red Solo cup. Eloise, meanwhile, had retreated to her room. I didn't see her the rest of the day, but word had started spreading. Aunt Camille pulled me aside in the hallway, whispering like we were in a spy movie. Andrew, what's happening? Trevor said the vendors pulled out because of technical issues, but the chef said the payments bounced. I shrugged. Maybe you should ask Trevor. Her eyes narrowed. Did you cancel everything? I smiled. They canceled me first. She didn't press. Just stepped back, adjusting the brooch at her throat like it was armor. The Whitakers weren't used to being questioned, especially not by one of their own, especially not the expendable one. Later that evening, the remaining guests gathered in the parlor for what Trevor called a casual dinner. Translation, takeout from the only upscale spot still delivering in town, arranged on fine china to mask the panic. I didn't sit with them. I watched from the threshold, arms crossed, sipping a whiskey I'd poured from the bar cart they'd forgotten to lock. The energy was off. No toasts, no laughter, just the occasional forced chuckle and sideways glances. Trevor tried to salvage it. So, big year ahead, he announced, gesturing like a man about to pitch a Ponzi scheme. We're restructuring a few assets, aligning with newer partners, keeping things nimble. I watched as Uncle Malcolm blinked at him, unimpressed. You mean you're broke? He muttered. Trevor flushed. We're not broke. We're rebalancing, Camille snorted. Is that what we're calling a margin call now? Eloise remained silent, eyes fixed on her plate. She didn't touch her food. I should have felt triumphant, but instead I just felt done, like I was watching a rerun of a bad show I used to love, realizing I'd outgrown it. The real kicker came the next morning. Sunday, the day they'd planned their legacy toast, some overblown final event with a photographer, a press team, and a curated guest list of investors and old money families. I found Trevor in the driveway at 7 a.m., talking to a guy in a windbreaker and sunglasses. I recognized him, media fixer, used to work PR for a senator who crashed a yacht into a dock and claimed the GPS was hacked. Can we spin this? Trevor was saying. Make it look like an intentional scaling back, family intimacy, authenticity, you know? The PR guy looked exhausted. You want me to tell the press that your family reunion collapsing mid-toast was intentional? Trevor glanced over his shoulder and saw me watching. His jaw clenched. I gave him a little wave. He didn't wave back. That afternoon, I made my final move. Not a press conference, not a legal threat. Just a quiet meeting with Whitaker Holdings' two largest partners. Both were ByteRoute clients. One was already in the process of pulling their logistics contract because of missed deliveries and shady payment delays. The other had flagged unusual wire transfers to offshore accounts. I sat down with both reps in a cafe in town, laid out the truth, and said, You want a logistics partner who won't collapse next quarter? They did. And just like that, 2 pillars of Whitaker Holdings disappeared. Without a bang. Without a war. Just gone. That evening, I walked the edge of the estate one last time. The tent was gone. The lawn flattened, the grass showing faint lines from where the poles had been. The catering trucks, the bar, the quartet all gone. Trevor sat alone on the porch. No suit, no bravado, just a man in loafers and an unraveling legacy. As I passed, he looked up. "You win," he said quietly. I stopped. Not because I needed the recognition, but because I wanted to see if he meant it. "You think this was about winning?" I asked. His silence told me he still didn't get it. "This wasn't a game," I said. "This was you writing me out of my own family and thinking I wouldn't notice. This was years of pretending I didn't exist, and then being shocked when I proved I did." He rubbed his face. "You could have just told us." I laughed. "Would you have listened?" Another silence. That was his answer. I walked on. I didn't go back into the house. Didn't want to hear Eloise's soft, cutting version of an apology. Didn't want a final toast. Didn't want closure. What I wanted, what I needed was already happening. I checked my phone. Ellie's article had gone live. Old money, empty accounts, the slow death of Whitaker Holdings byline. Anonymous sources confirm mounting debt, internal instability, and a quiet exodus of partners from one of New England's most prestigious family firms. Trevor's name wasn't in it. Neither was mine, but people would know. And more importantly, they would know. I didn't destroy them. They did that all by themselves. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see it. By Monday morning, the phones started ringing. Not just inside the house, everywhere. From the brokerage offices in Manhattan to the law firm they'd kept on retainer just in case. Even the antique gallery Aunt Camille co-owned got a call. Nobody likes being tied to a family featured in a headline that starts with, "The slow death of." I hadn't slept much the night before. Not from anxiety, just momentum. My body was calm, but my brain ran laps. I watched the sun rise from the bluff behind the estate, coffee in one hand, barefoot in the dewy grass. You'd think after everything, after years of trying to get them to notice me, to hear me, I'd feel something like revenge. But what I felt was distance. Like I was finally watching them from a place they couldn't reach. And they knew it. By 10 a.m., the Whitaker estate was chaos. The legacy toast was canceled, again. This time, not because the tent was gone, but because half the invitees had suddenly found scheduling conflicts. One of Trevor's oldest clients called and, according to the housekeeper, told him to go find a shovel because you're about to dig your own grave. The second-floor guest room where he'd been staying, empty by noon. He packed fast. No goodbye, no speech, just the distant sound of his car speeding down the gravel like it owed him money. And still no one talked to me. Not Eloise, not the uncles or cousins, not the ones who'd laughed when my chair was missing. It's funny. They always told me I was too sensitive, that I took things too personally. But the moment they were exposed, every single one of them vanished like smoke. Turns out I wasn't too sensitive. They were just too cruel to care. Later that afternoon, I went to the sunroom, the same one Eloise used to read in every morning. She sat there, cross-legged on a velvet chaise, porcelain teacup untouched beside her. Her shoulders were stiff, but her face was unreadable. I almost turned around, but something in me said, "No, finish it." She looked up as I entered. No smile, no scowl, just that expressionless stare she'd perfected over decades of being powerful without being warm. "I suppose you're pleased with yourself," she said. I leaned against the doorframe. Not really, just done pretending. She nodded, almost like she respected that. But then her voice sharpened. "You humiliated us." I gave a half smile. "You tried to erase me, I just proved I still exist." The silence stretched between us like a rubber band, tight and threatening to snap. Then she said it, the line that made everything click. I was protecting what's left of our name. There it was. Not guilt. Not remorse. Self-preservation. That's what it had always been. Not family, not love, just legacy. I walked further into the room, slow, deliberate. "You weren't protecting the name, Mom. You were protecting your fantasy. The one where we're still the Whitakers of old. Where money solves everything and appearances are more important than people." She flinched at Mom. I hadn't called her that since I left. You think it's easy? She shot back. Keeping this family together? You have no idea what it takes to hold this house, this name, this entire image together. I do know, I said. That's why I left. And then, for the first time, her voice broke. We built this for you. No, I said softly. You built it for you. And when I didn't fit in the blueprint, you just drew around me. She didn't deny it. Didn't apologize either. I think deep down, she thought she was right. That I was some rebellious outlier who just didn't understand the burden of legacy. Maybe that's the saddest part. She really believed the best way to love me was to mold me into something quieter, safer, more acceptable. But I wasn't built for that, and I never would be. When I left the room, I didn't slam the door, I just walked out the way I should have years ago. But this time, I wasn't running. This time, I was choosing to leave. 2 days later, the story picked up traction. Ellie's piece had made the rounds: financial blogs, mid-tier news sites, even a TikTok account that made short explainer videos about corporate implosions. Whitaker Watch trended for a few hours. Not viral, but loud enough to shake the old money circles. A leaked voicemail from Trevor angrily demanding an NDA from a former assistant didn't help. Neither did the blurry photo of Eloise at brunch, looking like she'd aged a decade in 2 days. With the headline, "Still smiling after the storm?" The investors bailed. 2 board members resigned. The trust froze disbursements while they initiated an audit. It was over. They just hadn't said it out loud yet. Maya texted again. Maya Wed 6:11 p.m. Heard the podcast. That was intense. You okay? Me. Yeah. Feels weird being the story instead of just telling it to myself. Maya, you were always the story. You just stopped giving them the pen. I stared at that message for a while. She was right. All those years I let them shape who I was in their minds. The dropout, the disappointment, the afterthought. But now I was the author, and I'd written an ending they never saw coming. On Thursday, I left the estate. No final confrontation, no big speeches, no dramatic exits. I just packed my things, tipped the housekeeper way too much, and drove off with the windows down, letting the salty air blow the last bits of that life out of my lungs. I stopped at a coffee shop in town on my way out, ordered an espresso, sat by the window, watched Eloise's name pop up on my phone, declined the call, not because I hated her, because I was done explaining myself. I pulled out my notebook and started sketching out a new idea, something I'd been thinking about for a while. Not a revenge business, not another empire, just something for me. A space for founders like me, people who didn't fit the mold but still built something worth believing in. A fund, maybe. A mentorship group. Something real. Something un-Whitaker. Because I'd spent years chasing their approval, and in the end, their collapse gave me the thing I never got from them. Freedom. Real, clean, earned freedom. They tried to erase me. Instead, they erased themselves. It's been 6 months since I walked out of the Whitaker estate with nothing but a duffel bag and a sense of calm I hadn't felt in a decade. No trust fund, no inheritance, no final toast, just clean air, a full tank, and the road ahead of me. I didn't go back to Denver right away. Instead, I drove through Vermont backroads still blazing with fall colors, down the spine of the Appalachians, across old towns where no one knew my name or gave a damn about what name I came from. And for the first time in a long time, I felt light, like I'd been carrying a story that wasn't mine for too long, and finally set it down. When I finally made it back to Colorado, the first thing I did was stop by Maya's place. I didn't call ahead, didn't bring flowers, just showed up with a coffee and a quiet hope that maybe, somehow, we could rewrite our story too. She opened the door in a hoodie and paint-stained jeans, eyes wide. "You look like you just finished a war," she said. I nodded. "Feels about right." We didn't talk much that night. Just shared silence, laughter, a movie neither of us finished. It wasn't a beginning. Not yet. But it wasn't the end either, and that was enough. Bite route kept growing, faster than I expected. The irony? The Whitaker name never came up in the process. Not once. Investors signed without hesitation. Clients renewed their contracts. A logistics partner from Seoul sent me a handwritten thank you card. Me, the guy who didn't even get a seat at his own family dinner. Turns out, when you stop fighting to be accepted by the wrong people, the right ones show up without being asked. I hired 2 new directors, opened a second office in Austin, started sleeping through the night without checking my email at 3 a.m. And most nights, I'd go home, make dinner, and sit on my balcony watching the city hum below me. Not as revenge, not as proof, just life. A real one. About a month after the article dropped, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten, heavy paper. No return address. I knew the handwriting before I even opened it. Eloise. The letter was 3 paragraphs. Precise. Measured. Like her, she didn't apologize, not directly, but she said she regrets the hurt, and that she didn't expect things to end the way they did. She ended with, "You've clearly built something worthy. I hope, in time, you'll see that I was simply doing what I thought was right for the family." I folded it neatly and placed it in the back of my desk drawer, not because I wanted to keep it, because I needed to remember exactly what love looked like in that house. I don't talk to Trevor. Last I heard, he moved out west, tried to start a boutique fund with money scraped from friends of friends. It didn't go far. People don't trust a man who loses millions with a smile. Camille sold her half of the gallery. Uncle Malcolm got audited. 2 of my cousins, Colin and Sarah, sent awkward hope you're well emails, which I never answered. The Whitakers still exist, just smaller, quieter. No more headlines, no more legacy brunches, just echoes of what could have been. Sometimes people ask me why I didn't take the trust to court, why I didn't sue, or make a bigger media moment out of it. I tell them the truth, because it was never about the money. It was about control, about finally choosing myself over the version of me they tried to design. They gave me a life shaped like a cage and called it privilege. I burned the cage, kept the key. Earlier this week, I walked past a new startup incubator downtown. Bright windows, laughter pouring out of a pitch session, young founders with whiteboards and secondhand laptops, and more heart than strategy. It reminded me of myself, so I reached out, offered to fund 3 of the teams under one condition: they had to keep control, build it their way, no suits, no strings. It felt good, not to play kingmaker, but to be the hand I never had. There's one last thing I've never told anyone, not Maya, not my team, not even myself, until now. The night I canceled the reunion, when I sat in my car watching the tent collapse, I almost undid it all. Finger hovering over the dashboard, 1 click, and the caterers would have come back. The music would have restarted. The lie would have continued. Because a small part of me, this quiet, desperate part, still wanted to be included. Still wanted to be invited back in. But I didn't click. Because deep down, I knew something I hadn't said out loud yet. They never really excluded me. They just never saw me at all. And that's what this story is, I guess. Not revenge, not redemption, just a return. To myself, to the boy who once sat at the edge of a long dinner table and wondered if he'd ever be enough. Turns out I was always enough. They just weren't the ones to decide. Story 2. This is only a reunion. According to my dad, I scheduled a ski vacation because I was not invited to my brother's lavish welcome home celebration. My family started blowing up my phone a few days later. When the text from Ryan appeared, Alex was lying on the sofa, browsing through their phone. "Hey, just letting you know, this weekend is a party." Locked guest lists. We had to cut it down because of the limited space. I hope you receive it. It was a sucker blow of words. Their younger brother Ryan, who had just returned from a 2-year deployment, was hosting a welcome home celebration. Additionally, Alex, who had been his savior throughout every shaky video chat from across the globe, was left out. With their thumb lingering over the reply button, they gazed at the computer, anticipating the joking follow-up that never materialized. They had always had a bond. When Ryan wasn't sure he would survive basic training, Alex had stayed up late comforting him. When the army food became stale, they mailed him packs of his favorite beef jerky. When he was stationed in Kuwait, they even assisted his fiancée Mia in setting up a surprise call. This room was small now. As they went back through their conversation history, Alex's jaw tensed. "I keep getting texts saying that you're the greatest, Alex, and that I can't wait to see you." I experienced the pain of being dismissed as an afterthought that required clarification. After weeks of promoting the party, they called their father. His rough-sounding voice answered the phone after only 2 rings. "How are you, child?" Alex wasted no time. "Ryan texted me just now, Dad. His party is not open to me. What's happening?" A brief period of quiet was followed by a sigh. As if Alex was the troublemaker. "It's only a reunion, you see." Avoid exaggerating the situation. "It's a modest arena." Not everyone could be accommodated. Alex's hand gripped the phone tighter. "Ryan posted about the entire crew showing up, and I just watched it. He has tagged more than 100 people." Dad cleared his throat, taken by surprise. "You know how these things work, don't you? RSVP at the last minute. It isn't intimate." Not intimate. Alex felt a burning sensation in his chest. For free, they had spent months creating Ryan's welcome home flyers, making adjustments until Mia approved the final version. They were then cut like a random +1 father. "His sibling is me." Their voice was harsh yet steady as they pressed. "How is an invitation not rated by that?" One more sigh. "Don't make a big deal out of this, Alex. It's only one evening." The termination was like gasoline. Alex ended the call, anger boiling, already planning something more significant than a little quarrel. After speaking with their father, Alex sat with their phone still warm. His statements sounded like a horrible tune playing repeatedly in their heads. "This is only a reunion. Only a get-together." It was more than that. Ryan was coming home. The brother. Through each deployment milestone, they cheered. When he needed a voice to help him come out of the shadows, they gave up everything for him. It was now evident from Dad's nonchalant dismissal that Alex's place in the family was optional. Spendable. The phone was thrown upon the couch. They paced the living room, their agitated footsteps making the floor crack. "All of the times I went above and above to help Ryan, edit his enlistment essay, and wire him money when his truck broke down." A highlight reel of their own folly flashed. The rage gradually heated up and became more intense, sharper. The glue had always been them, the one who covered Ryan's mistakes. For example, Alex traveled 2 hours to pick him up after he was found guilty of DUI during a pub crawl. No inquiries were made. Last year, they stayed up until 3 in the morning to prepare his engagement announcement, making sure that the typeface was just what Mia intended. What did they receive in return? A text about the lack of room and Dad behaving like they were complaining about a movie night they didn't get. Alex's pace ceased, staring at the framed picture on the mantel, hands clenched. At Ryan's boot camp graduation, they were smiling as if nothing could break them, arms wrapped around each other. "It seems like it could," the stomach punch followed. The following morning, Alex was at Brewhaven getting coffee. Still stinging from the night before when they overheard it, 2 cousins, Jess and Tyler, sat at a table near the window. Over the hiss of the espresso machine, their words could be heard. "Yes, it's going to be an incredible celebration, Ryan." Scrolling through her phone, Jess said. Tyler leaned closer and grinned. "He wasn't even invited, so I suppose Alex must have irritated him." Jess let out a sharp, reckless laugh. "Correct? I mean, it's kind of sad." Coffee sloshing in their cup, Alex froze in mid-step. They hardly heard the barista call their name. As the words set in, heat began to creep up their neck. Pissed him off. Said they weren't some alienated cousin begging for a seat. They were Ryan's damn sibling. Heads turned, eyes darting their way, and Alex rushed out the door, the sting of it clawing at their insides. By the time they reached home, embarrassment had fuzzed with the rage, a violent concoction that left them trembling. They fell into the couch, remembering every moment they'd let Ryan slide. Forgotten birthdays, last-minute cancellations, calls that only came when he needed a favor, and Dad constantly there with his be the larger guy shtick. Like Alex's sentiments were an annoyance to be handled. The coffee shop chatter was the last straw. Proof. This wasn't simply a private snub, but a family-wide memo that Alex didn't matter. They grabbed their phone, thumb lingering over Dad's number, tempted to call back and spew every ounce of wrath. But what was the point? He'd simply sigh again. Ryan wouldn't even answer when you told them to relax. Something broke. Alex launched a travel app and swiped Dad's contact information away. They certainly weren't going to stay and mope over not being good enough for Ryan's special night. Each click fueled a daring pleasure as they searched between locations. Hawaii, too far away. Miami, overly packed. A ski lodge in Breckenridge, Colorado, until they touched down. The screen looked back at all the snow-capped peaks and comfortable cottages. Excellent. On Saturday, Ryan had a party. All right. Instead, Alex would be tearing up powder, somewhere far away from the nonsense of the family. They made the reservation without hesitation. A Friday night flight in first class. A chalet on a hill, complete with ski instruction and a private hot tub. Tickets for lifts. The process. It was an eye-watering total. Alex, however, did not recoil. They had been acting like the nice sibling for years. It was their moment to indulge. Making the choice was like letting go of a burden they were unaware they were carrying. Work was called. Took advantage of a few days off. Their boss remained unflinching. You simply claimed to be deserving and got to work packing. Thermals and snow boots. They purchased the thick jacket for a trip that never materialized. Every object thrown inside the luggage was a slight against the expectations of the family. They pictured the look on Dad's face when he found out they wouldn't be attending the dinner. They may argue Thursday night because Ryan was perplexed when he realized they had checked out completely. Alex had trouble falling asleep, buzzing adrenaline. They sat at their workstation and drew a rough drawing of the view from the lodge. A fireplace that glows, jagged peaks, a post for later. Mom texted me on the phone. I've heard that the party has you unhappy. It's no big thing, according to Dad. Come nonetheless. Alex gave a snort. Come nonetheless. As if this could be fixed with a sorry invite. They didn't respond. Continued drawing the lines. Anger and boldness are growing. It's Ryan again, pinging. You're not really angry, are you, dude? It's only a party. Only a party. Dad's line echoed too loudly. After slamming the pencil down, Alex upgraded the trip and retrieved their laptop. Both seats are in first class. A personal ski instructor. They were doing it correctly if they were doing this. Alex was drinking coffee in their kitchen on Friday morning while gazing at the packed bag at the door. 6 hours remained till the flight. Unaware that Alex was done playing second fiddle, they would go as Ryan's friends were likely putting up streams and enjoying a few beers. They typed a caption after opening Instagram. You schedule it to post mid-flight and make your own plans when you don't make the list. There's no use in giving them a heads up. Allow the shock to strike after they had left. Alex picked up their suitcase as the taxi outside honked, a grin pulling at their mouth. They weren't simply fleeing. The script was being rewritten. Ryan was free to have his own party. Dad may have his justifications. However, nothing was stopping them from reaching the mountains, Alex. As they pulled their bag through the terminal in Denver, Alex felt the fresh mountain air as if it were a reset button. The dream had been the first-class flight, with a drink of bourbon and warm towels. They had enough legroom without feeling sardonic. Mid-flight, they had shared the planned Instagram photo, a self-portrait in which a sea of clouds is framed by the aircraft glass, captioned, "You create your own plans when you don't make the list." No labels, no justifications, just a little flex. Their phone was vibrating by the time they touched down, but they chose to ignore it and enjoy the freedom that came with being 1,500 miles away from Ryan's party and their father's justifications. A sleek vehicle with Breckenridge Lodge emblazoned on the side had a shuttle waiting outside. With a smile on his face and a graying beard, the driver threw Alex's bag in the rear and gave them a bottle of water. "Is this your first time skiing here?" As they turned onto the highway, he inquired. Ahead, the Rockies jut out like sharp fangs against the sky. "Yes," Alex leaned back and replied. A change of pace was needed. The driver gave a nod, no prying. Just pointed out a couple peaks as the route rose. Alex let the talk wash over them. The tension of the past week unraveling with every mile. The lodge was right out of a postcard. A large timber structure hugged the foot of the mountain, its big stone fireplace shooting flames into the twilight. Alex checked in, and the receptionist, a cheery lady called Tara, gave over a key card and a mulled wine in a cup that warmed their hands. "Slope side cabin. Just like you booked," she said. "Lifts 50 yards out your door. Enjoy." Alex tipped her a nod, grabbed their bag, and headed out. Boots crunching on fresh snow. The cabin was unreal. A king bed loaded with flannel blankets. A gas fireplace flickering to life with a remote and a wall of windows looking out the mountain beneath a pink sunset. They dropped their luggage, cracked open the wine they'd snatched from the lobby, and strolled onto the private deck. The cold stung their faces, but the vista, holy heck, it was worth it. They slid onto a comfortable chair by the fire, scanning through the first wave of replies to their post. Cousin, Tara different, Tara. The cool one dropped a fire emoji and living your best life. I saw an old college mate commented, man, where's my invite? Uncle Mike? The family weirdo wrote, savage move. Kid should have dropped them years ago. Alex smirked, drinking the wine, letting the petty joy of it settle in. Then Dad's text flashed up. You're being selfish, Alex. This is Ryan's night. Selfish. After they'd cut Alex out like yesterday's trash, they swiped it away, not bothering to react. Mom chimed in next. Please don't make this a thing. Too late. It was already a thing, and Alex was the one calling the shots now. Saturday morning, when Ryan's party was presumably beginning off with cheap beer and awful speeches, Alex was putting on skis for their first lesson. The instructor, a wiry guy called Sam with a burnt nose, guided them through the basics. Knees bent, pulls loose. Don't fight the slope. They hit a green run first, a smooth slope that felt like soaring. Once Alex got the hang of it, the wind swept past snow splashing in their wake, and for the first time in days, their thoughts was blank. No family drama, no hurt, just the rush. By lunchtime, they were carving turns like they'd been born on skis, Sam hollering, "You're a natural." Over the crunch of powder, Alex smiled, breathless, and shot a photo from the lift, boots dangling peaks reaching endlessly, posting it with powder beats. Pity any day. Back at the cottage, they switched skis for a bath in the hot tub, steam rising as snowflakes melted on contact. Alex ignored the ringing phone as it rested on the porch, observing how the floodlights illuminate the mountain. They had earned every calm moment and bubble. The lodge bar, a warm place with exposed beams and a guitarist playing a soothing tune, drew attention that evening. Alex took a stool, placed an order for a whiskey neat, and savored the warmth. At the adjacent table, a pair started a conversation. Seattle visitors are here for the season. Why do you go out alone? The female inquired. Alex grinned. I wasn't invited to the family reunion. I decided to upgrade. The man lifted his drink and laughed. Cheers to improved business. Alex saw a flash of something new as they clinked. Perhaps pride in their own decision. Sunday was a sunny day with a blue sky, so bright that the snow was blinding. Pushing to a blue run, Alex pounded the slopes once again. This time, as they faced higher drops, their thighs burned. The phone in their jacket vibrated as they were halfway down, tenacious enough to read a text message from a cousin of Tara. Not Clark. There's a crap show you're missing. If you want the tea, give me a call. Alex pocketed it, but curiosity pulled. They smiled as they made a careless stop to end the run. They made coffee, put their feet up by the fire, and called Tara back at the cabin. With a quiet voice, as if she were hiding, she heard the first ring. She said, "All right, you're going to love this." Ryan's gathering. Complete catastrophe. Alex bent over. Coffee. Ignored. Leak. Tara didn't mince words. Last night, Mia lost it. In front of everyone, I saw Ryan flirting with his high school ex. She stormed out after throwing her drink at him. Ryan was beaten up despite Dad's attempts to mediate the situation. Began to pound a wall and shout. Broke his hand. Although it's a disaster, the party is still going on. A chuckle erupted as Alex's mouth fell open. Hold on! His hand snapped. Yes. With a chuckle, Tara remarked. Your journey and everything of it. Dad is furious. Ryan is blaming everyone but himself as Mom is weeping. Alex pictured the mayhem and shook their head. It sounds about right. As they hung up, they gazed at the flames, realizing how ridiculous it was. It's Ryan's big night. Alex wasn't even present when his hero's welcome crashed and burned. Taking out their phone, they shared a picture of the hot tub steaming against the wintry background. I suppose I chose the ideal weekend to bounce. Alex didn't linger, but the likes came in quickly. They went outdoors. They took a deep breath as the cold jolted them awake. This was more than simply a way out. It was a declaration. Ryan was free to have his own party. Dad was free to give his lectures. However, Alex had the whiskey, the serenity, And the mountains. They weren't finished yet either. Sunlight sliced through the cabin's blinds as Alex woke up on Sunday morning. Another ideal day on the slopes was promised by the clear, golden sunshine. They padded in their socks to the kitchenette, their joints aching after yesterday's jog. As they mentally reenacted Terry's call, the coffee maker gurgled. Ryan's party was a bust. Mia's breakdown. The hand that shattered. It was nearly too nice. As if a switch had been turned by the cosmos to bring the scales into balance, they strolled onto the deck after pouring a boiling black cup. In sharp contrast to the mayhem raging at home, the mountains seemed calm and unconcerned. Alex grinned and took a leisurely drink, allowing them to drift away from their phone. Since they had turned off their alerts following Tara's update, the charging on the nightstand had been silent, but they nodded in interest and picked it up. The buzz from their latest post thumbing through the lock screen, "I suppose I chose the ideal weekend to bounce," had blown up. Cousins doing emojis of laughter, legend status from coworkers chiming in. Even a stranger from high school declared you to be hero. Then the family messages began to accumulate. "Alex, Mom, give me a call. Dad, this place is in disarray. This is no longer amusing. Ryan has harmed himself. Where are you, dude? Shit. Hit the fan yesterday night." Alex grinned more broadly. "I was hurt. He had struck a wall. It was his own darn fault." Then the worst part arrived. Ryan's subsequent communication. "If you had been here to soothe me, this wouldn't have occurred." "Thank you for nothing." Halfway to their lips, Alex gazed at the coffee. A strong, barking laugh replaced the disbelief. Calm him. After his good night, he had iced them out. The objective was unrealistic. Dad added more. "When we most needed you, you left us. I hope you're content." Joyful? Oh, they were overjoyed. They were treated like a spare tire by the family, who now expected them to fix a car accident they didn't cause. "You've got to be kidding me," Alex mumbled as he placed down the mug with enough force to spill coffee over the deck. The phone continued to ring, Mom once more. Then, of all people, Mia. "I'm not sure what to do, Alex. Ryan is a complete disaster. Give us a call, please." Alex gave a snort. Mia had raved about how helpful they were on the engagement call. When they were removed from the list, they remained silent. She needed a lifeline now. They pieced it together by scrolling back. Terry's account was incomplete. It's time to fill them. As the line rang, they leaned against the deck railing and phoned her once more. Her voice was quiet but full of excitement as she responded. "Oh," she continued, "you're in for it now." "Where do we stop? The hand of Ryan?" Alex smiled as he spoke. "Continue." Tara charged in. "All right." So after Mia ran away, Ryan lost it and yelled at his father, accusing him of inviting the ex. It became a full-fledged altercation as Dad shouted back and called him ungrateful. Then Ryan snaps his knuckles, howls, and swings at the wall. By then, the party is dead. Half of the visitors left. The other half merely stared in disbelief. Alex laughed, picturing the scenario with beer cans all over the floor and streamers sagging. Like a kid having a tantrum, Ryan is clenching his fist. "It improves," Tara went on. "Uncle Pete, the lush, fainted man trying to break it up, face first in the punch bowl. Soaked with fruit juice, they had to fish him out." Alex almost gasped for breath. "No." "Make a vow to God," Tara chuckled. "After that, Grandma Wade is furious and accuses Ryan of being a shame for excluding him. Said that the night was cursed by evil blood." Alex's smile got bigger. "Grandmother? Karma is being dropped like a hammer by the family's wild card." They stated she was not incorrect. Tara laughed. "And the location?" When Ryan attempted to order shots with his injured hand, they abruptly closed the bar. Ejected everyone by 11 o'clock, a complete train crash. Head whirling from the delicious ridiculousness of it, Alex hung up. They weren't even present to clean up the mess when Ryan's hero moment, his grand welcome home, turned into a family circus. The phone came back to life. "Mom is begging. We're disintegrating. You have to assist, Alex." They chose to disregard it, but Ryan's subsequent text message made them reconsider. "I apologize." "All right. It's worse than I anticipated. Return home. Apologies. Right now." Following the coffee shop's murmurs, the blame game shifts to the space limitations. Alex's mouth clenched. Too late, too little. As the plan for the day developed, they gathered their ski equipment and put on their boots. The phone wouldn't go off, so we went for another run and perhaps had lunch at the lodge grill. The voicemail from Dad appeared. Talk with a gravelly voice. "You're to blame, Alex. Ryan wouldn't have lost it if you had been present. Give me a call, Alex. Press the erase button." They were enraged. The guest list had been cleared of them, ridiculed in public. They were the scapegoat now. They ran inside, picked up a pen, and made a mental note. No more mending their ship. When the slope called, Alex responded by viciously shredding down a blue run. It sprayed with snow. Every curve burnt off as the wind screamed. The guilt trips of the family. At the bottom, panting, they paused and took one more look at their phone. "Mia once more? Alex, please. I'm pleading." Over the block button, they hovered, then strike it. "Ryan, Dad, Mom, Mia, in for taps." Quiet. Settled. Heavy and sweet. They sent Tara a text. "Have a party. It sounds like a lot of fun." "I'm doing well here," she fired back. "You are legendary." Grandma continues her tirade, saying that Ryan gets what he sows. After putting the phone in his pocket, Alex went to the lodge bar and placed an order for a beer and a burger. Skiers were chatting and sharing stories all over the place, quite different from the catastrophe at home. They ate slowly, enjoying the IPA's chili fizz and the meaty burger. Grinning, the bartender passed over a napkin. "You appear to have won something," Alex chuckled. "Yes, my mental stability." They went outside and gave him an additional tip, crunching snow beneath your feet. Alex sank into the hot tub, allowing the heat to release the last of their stress, as steam curled into the twilight. They released a picture of a brilliant, whirling bubble of a mountain. As it happens, I didn't miss much. To avoiding gunshots, cheers. Alex didn't care that the likes increased. The family was in disarray and Ryan's celebration was reduced to ashes. And they were there, unbothered, untouchable, free. Leaning back, they gazed at the stars and let the darkness to engulf everything else. On Monday, Alex awoke to the gentle sound of snow falling from the cabin's roof. A soothing reminder that their mountain retreat was still their cocoon. They felt looser and lighter than they have in years after yesterday night's beer and hot tub session. Wearing heavy robes, they got out of bed, made a pot of coffee, and went out onto the terrace. Their mug steam swirled into the freezing air. Wide and silent, the Rockies loomed, a stronghold between them and the breakdown of the family. It was sealed by Tara's update and the blocked numbers. Alex had finished his cleanup crew role. Grinning, they sipped slowly while reciting Grandma's awful bloodline. Her ability to transform Ryan's disaster into a cosmic reckoning is admirable. The phone rested on the counter, now a block of peaceful stillness. No more pleading or assigning blame, just tranquility. After finishing their coffee, Alex put on their boots and headed out for a morning run on the slopes. Today, the blue pathway felt more seamless. They make sharper bends, gaining confidence with each calf. At the top, they came to a halt. Let the triumph settle in while your breath fogs in the cold. Ryan's gathering had fallen apart. The family was thrashing around. Alex, too. They were doing well. They kicked off their equipment and surveyed the wider area after returning to the cabin, impulsive, glistening. It was scheduled to conclude on Wednesday. But why go back so quickly? They opened their laptop and decided to remain till the next week. More skiing, a trip into the woods, at the pub for a few of nights. Work? Didn't give a damn. They sent their boss another email, another take your time response. Alex grinned, picturing Dad's reaction when they failed to arrive for the supper. Give him time to stew. They made all the reservations. Return of first class. I experienced the excitement of cutting and was pushed till next Sunday. The corn extended further. The lodge was bustling with midweek skiers, and lunch was a steak sandwich at the grill. When Tara texted, Alex ate by himself, enjoying the privacy. Be aware. When you return, Mom is organizing an intervention. Regards. You're going downhill. As they ate their fries, Alex laughed, spiraling. They sent it back after taking a picture of the sandwich, with the snowy peaks visible through the window. Inform her that I'm too busy. Thriving. Not coming. Tara responded right away. Legendary. She'll lose it. Excellent. Give her a chance to flip. Alex completed his meal. After giving the server a tip, I left. A petty glee is fueled by the thought of Mom's ambush. That night, they went to the pub. The musician is strumming a version of Sweet Home Alabama while holding a whiskey. Alex joined them after being waved over by the Seattle pair from Saturday, alternating ski tails on a subsequent round. "Family is still falling apart," the man smiled as he asked. As Alex swirled their drink, they responded, "Oh yeah, this is what Grandma refers to as divine justice. I refer to it as a dodged bullet." To avoid gunshots, the woman burned them. Alex felt the final strands of remorse break as they clinked. It was better than any reunion to see these new faces without any baggage. They went on the backcountry trek on Tuesday. They followed a route through uncontaminated powder. The crunch of skis and their own breaths were the only sounds to break the oppressive quiet. Alex took out their phone at the top, took a picture of the vast white space, and uploaded it with no remorse. Complete tranquility. It was not seen by any family. Although the band number remained blocked, friends continued to enjoy it. Tara, Kid, even Uncle Mike keeps bringing it up. Alex sent a final text to Mom and Ryan. "Have fun with the intervention. I'm occupied with avoiding your mess." The answers were then disabled. Goodbye, Wednesday. Enjoying a fire and a book while relaxing in the cabin. In a manner they hadn't realized they needed, Alex felt free and unbound. Mom's tears, Dad's lecturing, Ryan's celebration. With each snowfall, they faded into ghosts. They silently celebrated the finest call they had ever made by raising their coffee to the mountain. Give the family a hard time. The skies and the slopes belonged to Alex, and the tranquility they had merited. No regrets. Everyone wins. Story 3. I didn't anticipate fireworks or a red carpet, but I also didn't anticipate being completely shut out. My mother sent out a group SMS first. "Hello, everyone! Jason's graduation celebration has a final guest list. I can't wait to join you all in celebrating." She supplied a list of names, which I browsed over. An elderly family cousins. My name was missing, but there were friends and distant relatives I hadn't seen since I was 12. Perhaps she had forgotten to tag me, so I looked again. She didn't. I initially believed it to be an oversight. I mean, I'm the sister of Jason, his elder sister. He was driven to college tours by this person, who repeatedly gave him rent loans. "Because you're more proficient in grammar than I am?" You corrected his thesis while staying up with him throughout his all-nighters. I then gave my mother a call. She responded in her typical upbeat manner. "Hello, my love. What is going on?" The list of graduation parties did not include my name. I spoke as calmly as possible. A pause occurred. "Yes, indeed. Jason wants the audience to be younger, honey. That sort of feeling, you know, his college pals. We assumed you would comprehend. You get it? Know what? It didn't even occur to me, his own sister, that my younger brother could host a party." I remained silent. I simply listened to her go on about vague reasons. She went on. "It's not personal. We simply didn't want Ava's presence to make things seem uncomfortable. Never. My former best pal. The same Ava who, a few months after our breakup, started seeing Jason. She was reportedly on the guest list, even though I hadn't spoken to her since the betrayal." When I fell silent, Mom responded, "Oh, come on. Don't let this become a thing. It's only a party." Without answering, I hung up. I had trembling hands. It was more than simply a celebration. When it no longer worked for them, they were suddenly judged irrelevant after years of sacrifice, support, and giving. I had always been the trustworthy daughter, the mediator, the fixer. However, it's obvious that I was only useful when I was useful. Something within of me suddenly exploded. After I closed the conversation, I just sat there gazing at nothing, my thoughts swirling into a haze of surprise, fury, and pain. I couldn't quit thinking about it. Jason's graduation was a milestone, something I supported him through every step of the way. And now, when it came time to celebrate, I wasn't only forgotten, I was purposefully omitted. My own mother made it apparent that my presence was bothersome, that my sentiments were secondary to making Ava comfortable. Ava, who had deceived me and evidently still had a permanent entrance into the family circle. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how often this had happened. Not just now. Not only with this party. There had been birthdays. They forgot to invite me to family gatherings where I'd be alerted last minute or not at all. Calls that only came when someone needed something. I had always said yes, always showed up, always been the trustworthy one, and it had gotten me nowhere. So I closed my laptop, rose up and fetched a glass of wine from the kitchen. I took a long sip and peered out my flat window at the dark horizon. Then I took my phone, opened my browser, and searched one word: Hawaii. Felt impulsive, reckless even, but it also felt right. If they could host a celebration without me, I could live my life without waiting for their approval. I wasn't about to sit around wallowing while they laughed over drinks with Ava. Like everything was perfect. I planned a 5-night stay at a beachside resort on the Big Island coast. Suite location access, infinity pool, the works. I even upgraded to first class on the flight. For once, I wasn't budgeting for someone else's needs. I was investing in my own tranquility. Once the confirmation emails came through, I let out a long breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Then I opened Instagram and uploaded a simple story, a snapshot of my travel confirmation, with the comment, "Uninvited but not undesired island vibes." Family drama. I wasn't anticipating a significant reaction, but within minutes it started. Cousin Tara answered with a laughing emoji. "Okay, Queen, go off." My pal, Mason, messaged. "Wait, what? They actually didn't invite you? That's screwed up. You deserve better." But the one statement that left me reeling was from Ava. "Yes, Ava," she answered to my narrative with "Delighted you found something to do. We didn't want drama anyhow." I froze. My jaw clenched so tightly it ached. She wasn't just tolerating my absence, she was savoring it, celebrating it, and my own family was allowing her. I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. I just switched off my alerts, poured another glass of wine, and grinned. Because in that moment, I knew I was doing the right thing. The next morning, I packed my things with a type of calm defiance I hadn't felt in years. Every swimsuit, every sundress I folded into my luggage seemed like an act of defiance, a proclamation of self-worth. The airport was bustling with noise, yet I glided through it. Earbuds and playlist on, sunglasses concealing my weary eyes. I boarded my aircraft early and settled into my seat. Leather broad, plush, grateful for the minor luxury as the plane took off. I glanced out the window and watched the city slip behind the clouds. I wasn't rushing away. I was choosing myself someplace over the Pacific. I ordered champagne and shot a quick photo of my spread legs, drink in hand, captioned "Cheers to getting cut off and soaring." First-class palm tree aircraft. I pressed send and leaned back, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long, long time: peace. By the time I landed, my DMs were filled. Tarragon. "Okay, I'm officially jealous. Old high school acquaintance. You appear very unbothered. Teach me your methods." Even Mason chimed back in. "You truly won. Let them have their party. A life is being led by you." I looked over the message requests. I was just curious. And sure enough, she was back there. "Mom, you're where? Is this the reason you're missing your brother's graduation?" No. I believed I didn't reply as a result. Outside the airport, a luxury vehicle with fresh flowers on the seat and chilled bottled water was waiting for me. The scent of plumeria and sea wind filled the air. The firming seemed to be the planet itself. When I got to the resort, I made this choice. I received a welcome beverage and a warm towel from the concierge. My apartment, which had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking infinite turquoise waters, was shown to me. The bed had a cloud-like appearance. A hammock swayed gently in the air on the balcony. After putting my luggage down, I went directly outdoors and let the warm air envelop me. I submitted another photo, this one of the ocean, with the guest list text removed after taking in the scenery, the quiet and the freedom. Not from joy, though. Show it to them. Allow them to experience what I did. Disregarded, set aside. The one distinction was that I had no regrets. I awoke the following morning to the sound of distant waves lapping against the coast and gentle sunshine filtering through delicate white curtains. I briefly forgot everything. Forgot the treachery, the grief, and the family strife. I was encased in a peaceful cocoon, one that gave you hope that the world was still kind. My phone then buzzed. Twice, then 10 times consecutively. I dismissed it at first. I thought there would be more responses to my previous post. Perhaps Tara is sending another living your best life meme, or Mason is making jokes. I sat up, though, as I saw the names scrolling over the screen. Mom, Jason, Rob, my cousin, Janice aunt, Grandma consecutively. Voicemails, messages, and missed calls came in more quickly than I could go through them all. I paused before unlocking the screen, sat up, and tightened the rope around me. Jason sent the initial message. Would you kindly respond? Then, it's harmful for Mom. You are necessary to us. A catastrophe has occurred. A catastrophe. I blinked, heart pounding, not out of worry, but because of uncertainty. I then read the mail that Rob, my cousin, had sent me. You escaped a bullet, Brooke. However, the celebration became a total disaster risk. The slightest smile tugged at my lips as I blinked at the screen. To read more, I tapped. Rob claims that Jason and Ava got into a heated disagreement in front of everyone halfway through the graduation celebration. She was accused by Jason of having an affair with a member of her department. The dispute quickly became heated as she vehemently denied it, screaming, weeping. Drinks leaked. People are filming. Ava slapped Jason across the face at one point, took his car and stormed out. It wasn't even the climax, though. Aunt Janice injured her hip after slipping on the terrace while attempting to step in. Grandma, who hadn't even wanted to attend, broke down in tears and said that the entire celebration was doomed. While all of this was going on, my mom was reportedly in a panic and attempting to gather herself. However, because of the noise, the venue ended the open bar early. Stunned and pleasantly amused, I scrolled. Then I noticed the icing on the cake. A film. Jason stammered and slurred. I guess this night's about betrayal, he said, taking the microphone away from the DJ. So let's celebrate phony friends and phony relatives. He was dragged off stage at the end of the video. It was the first time in days that I truly laughed. This was the same party they said it would be unpleasant if I went to the one I was too theatrical for. Not because I was mean. It would be too much trouble. Nevertheless, they managed to destroy themselves without my help. My phone rang once more a minute later. It was Tara this time, I said, grinning already. I'll guess. From the ruins? You're phoning. She started giggling. It was like a soap opera, girl. If you hadn't been banned, you would have enjoyed it. I smiled. Show me the highlights. Tara didn't mince words. She guided me through each turn. Jason's car keys were taken by Ava as she stormed away. Mom crying in the restroom. Aunt Janice and Uncle Rick are accusing one another of failing to intervene sooner. Grandma also declared the family cursed by treachery in a dramatic manner. Tara laughed. I think she was quoting you. Excellent, I said as I sipped my morning coffee, while taking in the most breathtaking scenery I had ever seen. Tara then said something that caused me to stop. By the way, some began to say that if you had been present, the drama would not have occurred. I blinked. Hold on, what? Yes. Additionally, Janice informed your mother that you typically calm Jason down when he loses his temper. Your mother then mentioned that perhaps they ought to have invited you after all. I gazed at the display. Let me clarify. My presence may generate controversy, therefore I was left out. And now they're saying that the real drama was caused by my absence. Tara gave a snort. Yes. Isn't it poetic? I felt the warm breeze run through my hair as I reclined in the lounge chair on my balcony. I ought to have been upset, ought to have justified it or felt smug. Rather, I simply felt liberated. When you return, they're organizing a family gathering, Tara said. I chuckled once more. Yes, it isn't taking place. Didn't believe so. Her voice was smiling as she said, Are you going to remain out there longer? I didn't respond right away. I turned to face the sea. The sand is softly curved by the waves. Then, with a few taps, I launched a browser tab and looked for Hawaii resort add-ons. I extended my stay by 5 days. I then uploaded one more picture. Under a beautiful blue sky, palm trees swayed as they wrote, Peace can sometimes be achieved by staying away. Allow them to tidy up their mess. Allow them to go on about their regrets. Permit them to gather as a family and discuss missed chances and curses. For my part, I was only beginning. The water was painted in rich pink and orange hues as the sun had just set beyond the horizon. I was enjoying a mango drink while relaxing beneath a cabana, while holding a paper umbrella that was only ornamental, but nevertheless gave me an absurdly opulent feeling. The scent of hibiscus and sea salt filled the air. Somewhere in the distance, a gentle island tune was playing. It was flawless. My phone then vibrated one more. I didn't even check it before rolling my eyes. Voicemails and texts were still coming in from unidentified numbers, even though I had previously blacklisted Mom, Jason, and a few other family members. I considered throwing the phone into the sand, but my curiosity got the better of me. It came from my cousin Lisa this time. All right, I get that you're ignoring everyone, but I promise you'll want to hear this. Give me a call. Grandma stated something that you must hear. After a moment of staring at the message, I smiled. Since Lisa was often the one to avoid trouble, if she was contacting you, something very crazy had happened. She picked up the phone as soon as I pressed it, muttering as if she were hidden behind a curtain. Are you phoning me? I'm grateful. All right, are you seated? I grinned as I surveyed the 5-star seaside resort that seemed to be wrapped around me like a dream. Yes, I believe I'm in an excellent position to handle this. All right, she responded, almost out of breath. Ava stormed away once the entire party exploded. The bar closing, Jason crying, Aunt Janice and your mother got into a fight. I arched an eyebrow at what you said. Flatly, she said. I blinked. Hold on, what? Yes. Aunt Janice said that you are the only one who has ever been able to calm Jason when he spirals, and that the entire meltdown might have been prevented if you had been present. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my drink. The same individuals who excluded me are now accusing me of failing to clean up their mess. It improves, Lisa replied. Grandma interrupted them both when your mother complained that Janice was being overly theatrical. This is what happens when you alienate family, he added, standing up and waving a finger. The cosmos notices. A pair who were passing by turned to smile as I laughed so loudly. Oh, and she went on to say that perhaps Jason wouldn't be alone today if you hadn't treated Brooke like an outsider. Stunned, I shook my head. That's what Grandma said. Lisa's laugh could be heard by half the room. She probably hoped you would suddenly show up out of nowhere and say, I told you so. I acknowledged that would have been a power move. However, Lisa stated that his mother attempted to make amends with the groom's family, but his mother responded that it seemed like a personal matter, then hung up. I almost choked on my drink. God, oh God, yes. It has been a catastrophe symphony. All routes, however, eventually lead back to you. They seem to have forgotten that they first cut you off. I reclined. The horizon is in sight. Lisa, you know what's the finest part? What? I don't give a damn. She started giggling. You're aware of what may. You must not. I simply wanted to let you know that karma showed up wearing heels. I grinned. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. Then, Lisa remarked quietly, there was a little silence on the line. Brooke, you made the correct decision. I mean it. The way they treat you is not fair. Regards, I whispered, and I will not return, but to make things better, but to make it acceptable. They made up their minds. Show respect, she answered. Are you staying longer then? I've already added 5 more days to my vacation. Lisa let out a whistle. It's iconic. A warm flush of validation settled in my chest as I laughed once again. Permit them to text passive-aggressively and hold family meetings. I'm going to have a massage on the beach with no guilt. She laughed. Tomorrow, send me a picture of your breakfast and live life to the fullest. Living vicariously is what I desire. Deal. After we hung up, I looked up at the sky. Now it was deep blue, and a few stars were just starting to glimmer. It had been years since I felt so light. No duty, no shame, and no emotional coercion concealed in family gossip mixed with remorse. I went through the blocked notification lines and opened my mails again. Mom, Jason, Deaned, Ava. I chuckled quietly. I then uploaded one last picture for the evening. A shimmering ocean serves as the background for my drink. The caption, I stayed away because they wanted me out. I've never made a better choice. I then switched off my phone entirely. Let the sound of the waves overpower all other sounds and waved to the server for another round. I wasn't the fixer for once. The scapegoat wasn't me. The forgotten one wasn't me, waiting to be remembered. All I had was freedom. The scent of plumeria wafted in through the open balcony doors as I awoke the following morning to the sound of soft waves. Beneath the soft cotton sheets, I stretched. A cozy feeling of tranquility clings to my chest. Family drama wasn't in my dream. I hadn't woken up with obligations or dreading messages. Simply remained calm. I turned over and grabbed my phone. Hesitated, half out of habit. Despite my desire to remain totally disconnected, my curiosity overcame me. Instantly, the notifications were pouring in, despite most of them being banned. Texts and voicemails had trickled through the cracks, like water beneath a locked door. The first one: "Stop being such a baby, Mom, and give me a call. This is no longer amusing." Next: "Jason, it's unbelievable that you're doing this. My sister is you. We are meant to be kin." Another, probably from Aunt Janice, from an unidentified number: "We must speak. Before it's too late, this family has to be fixed." I hit delete after rolling my eyes. Their tone had changed so quickly from disdainful to frantic, from unconcerned to insistent. It was nearly comical. I wasn't even worthy of being invited to a party a week ago. I was now the missing link in their disintegrating story. Then I noticed a single message. Lisa sent it. "Just letting you know. When you return, your mother is attempting to get the family together for a healing conversation. I assumed you would be curious." In fact, I laughed out loud. They thought I would come back. Instead of making a fake apology and acting as though nothing occurred, sit in a circle, as if I were the larger one, as if I would ignore it once more. I typed back, "Thanks for the warning, but I won't be there." Lisa reacted very quickly. "Wait, what do you mean?" I grinned as I planned my response. "I'm extending my vacation. They wanted to cut me out." "All right. I'm cutting myself off for good." I could almost see her expression, that wide-eyed mix of amazement and admiration. A few seconds later, her reaction arrived. "All right, it's iconic. Tell me everything when you come back. Whenever that is, face with happy tears." I grinned as I navigated through the resort's booking link on my laptop. I had extended my stay by a whole week after a few taps. No drama, no forced reconciliation, no family gatherings, just tranquility prior to going to the beach. After muting the group thread for days, I sent it one last message. "You want me around now, then?" I apologize. I've been enjoying my reactions too much. Enjoy tidying up your own mess. I then blocked them all one more. I threw my phone on the bed, put on a sundress, and crossed the warm wooden deck toward the beach barefoot. My flesh was touched by the air. Gold and water were illuminated by the sun. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt no weight on my chest, no rage and no guilt, only me, Pull, not bothered, and at last, free.